Welcome, everybody, to Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. I am 1/3 of your host tonight. My name is Santi, and we're going to get to our guest here in just a second. But, Steve, I want to throw it over to you. How has it been going?
Santi, it is fantastic. I am going to run into it real quick and just give everyone a quick update on the social media following. Guys, we are 367,000 as of right now on TikTok. Thank you guys so much for the continued following. It's nothing compared to the guests that we have on the show today, but we will get there in a second. Almost 7,000, 6,800 on YouTube. And Santi, can I shout out some new locations?
Yes, where? I'm always fascinated to hear where some of these people just live in the middle of nowhere. So, where is our most remote listener this week?
I'm gonna say this. I am very surprised, but we finally hit Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I mean, that's not like a middle of nowhere, but like that's still pretty cool that we're crossing the Pacific.
Yeah, we crossed the Pacific. We're in Honolulu. I just want to shout out Johannesburg. We're getting heat.
You know what? I saw that we had a lot of listeners in Johannesburg. Yeah.
We're getting heat in Johannesburg.
Let's go.
And Kolkata.
We got into India. Let's go worldwide.
Kolkata. What is going on, Kolkata? And honestly, I'm just going to shout it out every time I see it, just because I want to. Alisund, Norway. Okay, let's just talk about this. Is where the Vikings took off from. All right, Alisund, Norway. It's almost as north as Iceland. Okay, so we're just gonna shout the guys. Thank you so much for all the support, following, listening. Follow us on all our platforms. Santi, let's get to the topic of the day, bro.
I mean, the topic of the day is sitting right in front of us. Mr. Professor, aka Nick, welcome to the show. How have you been?
Gentlemen, I've been great. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yes.
I'm going to say this. Thank you for joining us, Nick. Like, honestly, we got the OG of the wrestling community right now. For me, I'm marking out just a little bit. I'm enjoying this right now. Thank you so much for joining us, Nick. I cannot wait to hear your story, man.
I'm very excited to be on with you guys. You know, I love to talk about how everything came to where it is now, because it's gotten pretty crazy over the past week, and I'm just blessed and thankful for all of the opportunities that have been presented, including to be on with you guys, because this was in the works before all of this stuff came about last week and up to now. So I'm really excited to be on with you guys.
Well, again, we appreciate this, Nick. And, you know, I know that there's many of our listeners are coming over from our TikTok channel. So I'm confident that many of the people who are listening to this, either in podcast services or watching the live version here on YouTube, many of them know who you are. But I'm sure that there's probably going to be a good pocket of people that don't know who you are. If they were to visit your TikTok page, they're going to see a variety of things. They're going to see things related to music recently. You're going to be seeing some wrestling stuff, some comedy. I'm curious how you yourself would describe your TikTok page to somebody who has never seen any of your work.
I would call it edutainment, because there's a lot of entertainment about it, but there's a lot of education as well, with the education background that I come from. I recently just left the job as an administrator at a junior high school. But before that, I taught for 7 years in elementary. Before that, I taught for 7 to 8 years in the college realms. I've been a substitute teacher. I've been in education for a large portion of my life. So that is ingrained in the content that I present on social media. But you'll see a lot of wrestling. Of course, you'll see a lot of music, especially rock and metal type stuff. And you'll see some comedy as well, because that's the kind of stuff that I started off doing. And like I tell people all the time, if you keep liking it, I'll keep making it.
No, and that's fair. Now, just before we move on too far away from this, I'm very curious as to how you got onto TikTok in the first place. Because I say this because I'm just about to turn 30, and it took me a while to look at TikTok and say, all right, I should be on this platform, because for a long time I was like, this is for children. My nieces are doing dances to TikTok. They're doing the Renegade or whatever it's called. So I know how I eventually got into TikTok. And it seems like Steve wants to jump in, but I'm very curious how you ended up actually starting a TikTok page as not being a 14-year-old schoolgirl.
Steve, you want to say something before
Yeah,
I jump in?
absolutely. I want to let you know, Nick, like Santi and I used to work together in a setting, and I jumped on TikTok a long time before he did, and he used to troll me in our office day in and day out for having a TikTok. Like only like 18-year-olds and under will have TikTok. And this guy is now sitting with me with 300 and almost 70,000 followers, and he won't swallow his pride. So, Nick, please tell me, how did you get into it? Because I showed this man the way.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I had a lot of friends who were the same way, who used to get on me all the time by, oh man, you a grown man on TikTok. What are you doing? And then the numbers started to jump up and they were like, man, maybe I need to get on TikTok. But I was like, Santi, man, I started out when I first got TikTok, because I said I would never get it, but then a buddy of mine was like, come on, you got to get on it. You love it, get on it. I'm on it. The kids are on it. You got to get on it. So I was like, okay, I'll get on TikTok, and I was on it for a day and then deleted it. So I was like, this is nothing but like 14-year-old girls dancing. They're gonna put me on a watch list. I'm an educator. I can't. This is not something that needs to be happening. So I gotta. No, I can't do this. So this was January 2020. Then the pandemic happened, and I was a teacher at home with nothing to do, and I was bored. You know, I did theater back when I was in college, so I was working when everything happened. I was working with this company that was providing enrichment and an enrichment program for school age children, elementary school age children, whose parents worked on the front line. They were doctors, nurses that worked at a local hospital. So they brought them to us so we could stay with them and help them with their schoolwork that they had while they weren't in the building anymore, while their parents were working 24-hour shifts trying to help people who were coming down with COVID. And while I was there, one of my coworkers, who was a fellow teacher, she's like, "You've got to get on TikTok. You're perfect for it." So I said, I'll try it. And I look at it, and there's a lot of Kevin Hart stuff. And this is when the Tiger King boom first started. Matter of fact, the first TikTok I ever made was the Carol Baskin dance, where the Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. But my whole thing was I did it like what is it?
Can't.
The Sammy Guevara Bob Dylan thing where you're holding up the signs while the lyrics are going on. Is Carol Baskin innocent? Killed her husband, whacked him. Nope. So I was defending Carol, and it
Bold.
got a bunch of views, and I just kept rolling from there. But I was only defending Carol despite everybody who said that she was guilty of sin.
Hey,
Because we all
I get it. I love making content for the sake of spiting people, especially like when they don't see that it's a joke. I have a separate TikTok channel where I'm dressed as it right now, where I'm an obnoxious John Cena mark, where I won't move from the argument that John Cena is the greatest of all time. And I put it in my bio that I am a parody of myself, and still people are in my comments section calling me a mark, to which I reply, no, my name is Santi. It's hilarious just seeing people just creating what I believe is just wholesome content that is getting people mad for absolutely no reason. Steve, jump in.
The worst part is, like, I get tagged. Like, they know he's my, like, pretty much my tag team partner. I get tagged in every single one of his videos just so I can get trolled by him being a mark. Like, I'll tell you right now, it is. I wake up in the morning. He throws a video up at 10 o'clock at night. I wake up in the morning at 8, and I've got like 70 notifications of Santi's video. Mr. Tash, Mr. Tash, Mr. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is ruining my life, but he is creating the best content because nobody understands. he's actually trolling everybody.
Now, Nick, I mean, let's talk a little bit about your journey into wrestling TikTok. Like we mentioned, you've done a lot of different verticals with TikTok. What's funny enough, like you are definitely against the current when it comes to the typical strategy of growing on TikTok, which is do one thing and do that one thing a lot. That is proven to work on TikTok. You aren't doing that. If somebody goes on your page, like we said, there's a lot going on. How we got to know you and how you landed on our radar is your wrestling stuff. Whether it's you commenting on wrestling culture, you making skits about wrestling, or working with wrestlers on your TikToks. We saw some of your stuff with AEW. I saw some of your TikToks doing things at indie shows. So I know that you probably have a very rich background in professional wrestling, but I'm very curious, what made you make the decision to take TikTok, where you are making Carol Baskin dances, and wrestling, and put them together?
Well, wrestling has always been a love of mine ever since I was a small child. So I one thing that I wanted to do with my content was take the things that I loved, that I really loved, and put them into my content, make content surrounding the things that I enjoy. Because one thing that I've found and learned about social media is that if you know something well, that's the one thing you want to talk about. You don't want to venture into your content or anything that you do talking about something you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't even know what it is. If you're not well versed in what you're talking about, you shouldn't be posting it online, because people will come after you with the quickness. And I think one thing that people find about the wrestling stuff that I do on TikTok is that I know what I'm talking about. Part of the reason why I got noticed by WWE and AEW for the stuff that I was doing with my entrances was the nuances, all the little things that I was doing in those videos and in the entrances that most people don't notice. For all of these people that are doing their stuff, like the Batista entrance is one of my favorites, and it's also one of Xavier Woods' favorites too.
So
If
good.
anybody would,
So
take
good.
attention on social media, and it's what I just did another one the other day. I've done it. I want to say I've done two different videos, but I also did it live on the Bump. And it's one of my favorites. You got the leg slap right before you get to the guns, and all the different stuff that he does, the quick turnaround to go to the other side of the ramp to talk to the other part of the audience before he comes down to start doing all the other stuff in the entrance. You notice the little stuff, and it makes it that much just more crisp and a part of it. And part of why I wanted to start doing that stuff online in the first place is because I love it. And I saw a couple of other people. One thing about social media, TikTok in particular, is that a lot of times you will find your people. You will find your tribe. You will find people with like interests. And I saw a lot of people on there who had wrestling stuff. And the more you like and comment on that stuff, the more it goes onto your FYP. So at one point I was like, well, let me start doing some of my wrestling stuff too. And it just took off. I found my people. And I saw who was it? The Macho Fan, Sandy Ravage. If
Yeah.
anybody remembers that,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
TikTok United States like he was the TikTok US champion, and Lou Nonsense was the TikTok World Heavyweight Champion, and I was still doing eFeds heavy over on Facebook when I joined TikTok. So when I saw all that stuff, that's how I really got into the Wrestle Talk stuff, was the eFed stuff, the cutting the promos on TikTok, and talking about people and trying to get over with everybody, and people really liked it. And we did this whole thing, SummerSlam 2020, with me versus Sandy Ravage. Was that no, that wasn't SummerSlam. I apologize. SummerSlam was me and Lou Nonsense for the World Heavyweight Championship, and that became like this big deal on Wrestle Talk, where they had all like 5 different judges judging the match to see who was going to end up winning, including, I want to say, like some big, YouTubers and so forth. And, I've had Mikey O'Shea judge one of my matches on TikTok before, and he, a family app. Oh, Mikey, my boy. It's so that's how I really got started with the wrestling stuff on TikTok. It wasn't even the entrances. The entrances came as a product of me doing like the promos and stuff and the EFED stuff on TikTok. And that's how the wrestling stuff really started to come to fruition.
Gotcha. Now, with you doing all of this wrestling stuff, it's afforded you, and you've already mentioned a few of them, afforded you some opportunities to work with wrestling promotions, either the largest ones on the planet, like WWE, as you mentioned, to smaller independent promotions. The one I'm very curious about is the recent work that you did with AEW a couple of months back. Can you tell us how that relationship came about?
Absolutely. So I did a podcast with Dan McDevitt from Maryland Championship Wrestling. And when I did that with Dan, he said during the podcast, he was like, well, he talked to me and he knew somebody that was connected to AEW. And I was like, well, I'm trying to go to the show in New Orleans. And he was like, let me see what I could do. And he talked to his buddy, and he was like, and his buddy and they got me in. And not only did they get me in, he was like, look, we want you to come to the show, but also Orange Cassidy wants to do some content with you. So can you like we want you to come, but we also want, Orange wants to do some stuff with you. So I said, yeah,
I bet that
yeah,
wasn't even a discussion.
It's not even a
yeah,
conversation at that point.
let me think of, yes. Let me do that. So I ended up getting I walked in, and well, it was surreal because I've been recognized before by people, going places, and they'll say, "Oh man, you're that dude from TikTok. I really like your stuff." But I've never been like rushed and approached like I was at the AEW show. Like I'm walking in and people are stopping me to take pictures with me. They're like, "Dude, can I take a picture with you? I love your stuff. You are the best." And that was a surreal and crazy moment to me in and of itself. The fact that I know I'm going in to do this, but people are stopping me like I'm on the card. So
You're basically one of the guys on the card. You are one of the AEW superstars in that situation. So that is fantastic. Keep going, please.
yeah, so it's crazy. So we get there, and one of the producers who's downstairs is like, I'm gonna come up and get you. I'm gonna bring you down, and we'll take you back, and then we'll do your stuff. And I walk in, and just everybody. You walk past everybody. One of the first people I saw was Ricky Starks, and Starks interacted with me a good bit on the entrance that I did on Twitter, and he really enjoyed it when I did his because his is one of my favorites. Ricky Starks. That's my boy. And plus, he's a Louisiana guy like me. So Ricky, as a matter of fact, Ricky was one of the guys that worked with the promotion that I work with now, BIW, back in the day before he did AEW. Because Bayou Independent Wrestling usually uses a lot of guys from Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Arkansas. And Ricky was one of those guys. Keith Lee was another one who did back in the day, but I digress. So I get downstairs and I see Ricky, and see a bunch of the guys who are going over stuff for the night, and just getting to meet all these guys and talk to them, and just really it was a surreal moment to see all these people. Like I grew up watching Sir William Regal, you know what I'm saying, and to be in front of this man, to have somebody be like, "Oh, this is Stephen William Regal," and he introduced himself by his real name, and he was like, "Hi, very nice to meet you." I said, "Oh my God, it's
I'm
you!" He's like, "No, no, 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 please, 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 the American legend, stop it! Don't do this to me. It's crazy. Just like to see all of these guys and to just be right there with them. I've gotten the opportunity to work with some great talent over the years with my work on the indies and doing different stuff with like WWE and AEW. But the fact, I'm still a fan. Like Mark is not a derogatory term for me. I'm sorry, guys.
Thank
Mark is
you.
not a
Thank you.
Mark is not a derogatory term. I say we take that term back.
Oh
Mark is
yeah,
not a derogatory term.
I wear that like a badge.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't deny it. I think we're all wrestlers are marks. If they weren't marks, they wouldn't be participating in the industry themselves. They're just levels to it. Like some people are I'm not even gonna get into that. But it's like I'm still a fan. So when I see all of these guys and I'm talking to all these guys and they tell me that they dig my content and they like my stuff, that was just the best. And then I got the chance to sit with some of the guys and watch Dark and while it was being taped, and then they're like, you ready? You want to go? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. So they pull me over and I'm standing there with Orange and he goes, let me get because he wanted to get other people in it. Because you remember the video, there were a couple
Yeah.
other people in it. He's like, I'm gonna get 10 and Danhausen and Tony Storm and pull them over to do the video. So they come over. Orange came up with the whole concept of what he wanted to do for the video. That was all Orange, man. Of like the people holding up the tens and him coming from around the corner with the thumbs up. That was all him. And I was, I was over the moon working with him. But the best part to me was because I've had interactions. If anybody who follows on Twitter knows, I've had a lot of interactions with Sean Dean, Captain Sean Dean, who I love. And him and Carly Bravo, the infantry, man. Salute the infantry. If I ever get the chance to work with AEW and they want me to manage somebody, it's the infantry. Those are my guys. So I see Dean and he's walking past and he sees me and he automatically goes, yo. And I was like, what's up, man? And we just like ran towards each other and just dapped each other up and took pictures. And it was just the coolest thing, man, because that's my guy. So to have that kind of interaction with somebody and to, just to have that kind of rapport with somebody who I see on TV on a regular basis is just the coolest, man.
So Nick, I'm going to jump in here. Like I got blessed when I was younger. I worked in the hospitality industry in mine in Santi City right now, and I got to work backstage for a bunch of house shows. And I've had the privilege of meeting the likes of Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. The list goes on and on. And you get to meet that one wrestler that really kind of changes your persona about the business and how they bring themselves across compared to what they do on TV. Mine was Eddie Guerrero. 100% mine was Eddie Guerrero, like hands down. When you went to AEW, or maybe it was something you had when you were at the Bump with WWE, who was that one that really was just like humbling and just welcoming that made you feel to the point that like you were one of the talent? Who was that one for you?
Jonathan Coachman. Um, if anybody
Wow.
remembers the coach.
Yeah. Oh, of course we
Whoa,
remember the
whoa,
coach.
holy shit.
So
Okay.
so
What?
so so let me tell you a story. I used to work with ESPN radio affiliate out of North Louisiana for like a decade or so. And when I worked as a producer and on air talent with them, we had a working relationship with Jonathan Coachman. Coach was doing college football at the time along with working with the WWE in an on-screen and behind-the-scenes role. So, Coach, they were doing Saturday night's main event in Dallas, Texas, and this was back during when ECW was a part of the fold as well.
Mhm.
And Coach was like, "Hey, man, if you guys are going to be in town for a Saturday night's main event, I'd love to bring you over to the bar, buy you a drink at our hotel if you'd like to come by." We're like, "Yeah, sure." So we get there. First of all, our hotel, we made sure that our hotel was right next door to where they were. I think we were at a La Quinta, they were at a Doubletree, and we were right next door. So we could just walk over from the room and go to where they were. So we're walking up, and the first thing I see is Joey Styles and Taz having dinner in the little downstairs restaurant through a window as we were walking up to the door. And that kind of gave me an indication of how the night was going to go. So we walk into the bar area, and Coach is sitting there with Tori Wilson, Candice Michelle, Victoria, and Todd Grisham.
Oh.
Santi, get up, bro, get up, bro. Sarah's watching this. Sarah's watching this, bro.
They're all just sitting there, chilling, talking. I had this long conversation with Victoria because that was right after, I want to say, her WrestleMania 20 match with Molly Holly, which was a just go back and watch that match. It's a really good match.
Oh, Nick,
And
don't let me cut you off. Give me a sec. But Santi's legit like simp junior high is Victoria.
I
So you
love
got it.
Victoria.
yeah, she's the best, man. She was real. Shout out to Lisa Marie Varon. Just the best, dude.
Yeah.
So get a chance to talk to all of them. We're sitting there, and Big Show walks in, and Coach is like, "Hey, Big Show, come on over, man." So Big Show comes over, and he grips my hand, and it just engulfs me. And then Jim Ross walks in. Now, this was like one of the humbling moments for me, where Jim Ross comes in, sits down at the bar with the hat on, the whole nine, because that is not a gimmick. That is who JR is. And he's got the beer. He's sitting there drinking beer. And I walk up to him and say, "Hey, man, I don't want to bother you because I know that you've had a long night. And I just wanted to come up and shake your hand and let you know that I truly appreciate you. I grew up watching you and Gordon Soley, being from the South. And you are one of the reasons why I love wrestling. So I just wanted to say thank you and buy you a beer." He's like, "Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that." And it was just a really cool moment for me that whole evening. The funniest part was I think we saw who was it? I want to say Hornswoggle and Big Show were having breakfast at a Denny's across the street.
Sounds like the
And that
start of a
was just
joke.
that is no, that's real life, bud. Like that was one of the weirdest sights ever to see this gigantic man and this little bitty guy sitting across from the table each other like having hash browns. It
That's
was weird.
Santi's future bachelor party.
That's right there. Oh, this is incredible. I just want to say that all of our listeners, wherever they are around the world, you have just basically described a wrestler's fan fiction.
Yeah.
It feels like you wrote this for like I said a fan fiction telenovela website somewhere, because if that were to happen to me, I'm pretty sure that like I would never bathe. I just to be in the presence of greatness. And here's something I kind of want to get at. So I feel like one of the reasons why Straight Shoot is taking off and doing so well across various different channels is that Steve and I are not insiders in any way, shape, or form. We are not journalists. We are simply fans that enjoy wrestling and just want to talk about it. And I think that that's come across in a lot of the things that we do, and perhaps maybe that's the reason why a lot of people have jumped on. Like with a lot of wrestling podcasts, there's a lot of it is run by wrestlers or insiders, and a lot of the time there's a disconnect there between fan and those two, wrestlers and insiders, because the fan isn't a wrestler and the fan isn't an insider. So we're thinking, we're seeing this traction because a lot of fans are resonating with our point of views because we really are just fans. And from my perspective, what I'm hearing is that your ability to create content as a fan, somebody who loves the product and is passionate about it, it makes it so the content that you're creating and the relationships that you're trying to create aren't forced. They seem to come very natural to you, and all of these opportunities seem to flock to you because your content seems so genuine and so real, as somebody who is a wrestling fan making content, not somebody who is making content to be a wrestling fan, which I'm gonna just throw it out there. I think there's a lot of that on the internet. I'm curious, like, you mentioned that story so nonchalant. What is your most awestruck moment? Like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of this person right now. You mentioned a little bit with William Regal. Maybe that's it. But what's the biggest one you've had?
Well, there's one that happened that was very happenstance for me. We were at like I said, I worked with an ESPN radio affiliate, and we were able to go to a bunch of different sporting events. And before they were the Pelicans, they were the New Orleans Hornets.
Yep.
And they had a nationally televised game against the Golden State Warriors years ago. And I was this was right after, they still had a working relationship with a lot of the people. They had just moved from Charlotte. So they still had a working relationship with a lot of the people who they had that kind of relationship with back then. One of them being Ric Flair. So we're there for an event, for a game, for that game on a Sunday. And they were like, so Ric Flair is going to be signing autographs in the concourse during the game. But before the game, me and my buddy are standing outside in line trying to get in, and there's this commotion like right around us. And we're like, what is going on? What's happening? Rick by God Flair walks right in front of us. Like, I mean, my computer's here. I'm here. My computer's Ric Flair. Like, walks right in front of us. I didn't say anything. I didn't try to stop him, anything like that, because everybody was trying to get their hand on Nate. Like, oh my God, it's Ric Flair. So that was one of the moments that was kind of like, wow, because it wasn't one where I was really expecting it or trying to see it or anything like that. It wasn't that we had bought like VIP tickets or nothing like that. But to kind of circle back years later, Rick's people get in contact with me in order to do some work with them. Like, I think it was SummerSlam or something this past year. I think it was SummerSlam. SummerSlam last year, where they were doing like a live video cast thing that people could buy tickets to so they can sit and like watch SummerSlam or do like a SummerSlam pre-show with Ric Flair. And they contact me and they're like, we want to throw you like free tickets and want you to like send other people tickets for like a contest that you do on your socials. So getting reached by different entities within the business who say we want to work with you. Like, that's what kills me now. Like, I've had the opportunity to work with a bunch of different sports professional wrestlers. Don't want to say sports entertainment. Uh, got a chance to work with a bunch of different guys in the business over the years that have always. Okay. So years ago, before I started working in well, kind of, I just started, and TNA, it was TNA at the time, did a house show in Monroe, Louisiana, which is North Louisiana, which is where I was at. And they wanted to do this promotion where a couple of DJs from local radio stations came in and managed wrestlers. So they had a match for the X Division Championship between Sheik Abdul Bashir, who people know as Sean Devari, and Homicide. So they wanted me to manage Sheik Abdul Bashir, who was the challenger, and Homicide was the X Division champion at the time. And my buddy, a good friend of mine, was managing Homicide. So before we go out there, Davari tells me that he wants me to do some mic work. So we go out to the ring.
My God.
And he says something and hands the mic to me, and I'm just like, "You Hicks don't know anything about the talent that's in the ring right now. So let me introduce you to the new X Division champion, Sheik Abdul Bashir." It was the funniest thing, man. And then the match is going on, and Homicide is like, Bashir's got the drop on Homicide. He crawls over to the ropes, drapes himself over the ropes, and is acting like he's flailing, but he's really calling me over so I can do some chokes. So I can choke him up against the ropes. So I was doing like legit heel manager work for TNA. And that was like, bruh, you couldn't tell me nothing that night. I legit slapped my homeboy who was managing Homicide. Like,
do we got this on YouTube?
No, this was a house show. Like,
okay.
If you want like real YouTube footage of me, there is some out there of me doing like heel manager work. There's a guy, Vordell Walker. He's a former FIP wrestler. He's an indie guy. He was a former NWA National Heavyweight Champion a couple years ago. and there's a match between him and a guy, Sean Cordova, and I was Cordova's manager at the time. And you can see Vordell rough me up. I take a couple bumps in that one. There's one with Cordova and his tag team partner, the Inner Circle, that I managed at the time against these guys, the Washington Bullets. There's a video I just posted on TikTok of like work that I've done in the past. You can see one of the Bullets like choking me during the match. And at the end of that match, if you watch that video on YouTube, you'll see Barrett Brown from NJPW Strong, part of the Stray Dog Army. He's been on AEW a bunch of times. He's been on WWE a bunch of times. ROH. Barrett is he's the consummate professional and just a really cool dude. And Barrett, like, literally kicks my butt at the end of that match. Like, literally puts his foot on my keister. So you can go and check that out. It's on YouTube. And there's another one, a couple of different matches that I managed that are on there too. But the whole thing with TNA, that was just like just a wild evening. And then we get to the back after I'd slapped my homeboy who was managing Homicide during the match. And we get there, and the Road Dog is one of the road agents for TNA at the time. And he's like, "Did you slap him during that match?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, I would have slapped him back. Like, what are you doing? Like, you should have taken a swipe." So yeah, I've had some really cool moments in the business that it's just great to go back and to look back on some of that stuff, because it just it kind of shaped the content that I have now and where I am with just TikTok and wrestling in general.
So speaking of the content that you have now, you've just broken 1 million this past week on TikTok. Like, what does that do? Like, what does that do for one, your content, two, for yourself, and three, for kind of the things that you're about to do, the opportunities that are being sent to you, and that kind of thing. Like, what are the next steps at that 1 million standpoint? Like, obviously you got the verification quite a long time ago, but the 1 million standpoint, we all know, is kind of that upper echelon of, creators. So what has happened in the last week that has kind of changed, that dynamic of what you do?
Well, there's a lot of DMs and emails from different people who are saying, we want you to come on this, we want you to come on that. I want people who are watching this and listening to this now to know that the whole thing was straight shoot. This was way before the million and way before the viral video. We were working on this for a while. This is something that we wanted to do. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So this has nothing to do with the million or anything like that. This is just a bunch of mutual admiration society
Bunch of
getting together
marks.
to talk about a bunch of marks getting together talking about wrestling. This is like your mom's basement. Just a bunch of no, I'm kidding. So, so
Them
what
boys, we them boys.
it is, we the ones. So we so what it does is you put the 1 million next to the verification symbol, and people automatically look at your account and say, "Okay, let me see what's up." Like, that's when you go back and look at some of these other creators who have had, who've gotten to the million point, who had the verification symbol, and the million turns into 2 million or more than a million almost instantly. Like, the numbers start to just pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up. Because, people you'll come across the FYP, they'll go to your profile, see that you have a million, see that you have the verification symbol, and automatically come in. Like, one thing that I've noticed this week more than anything else is a lot of blue checks commenting on my stuff, which isn't something that happened regularly. You had maybe one, because I have a couple of people who I've been friends with on TikTok for a minute, who my buddy Jake Holland, Pizza Beer Party, who was real big on Vine back in the day, and he's really big on TikTok now, and been verified for the Gap. And we've been following each other for almost since I first started on TikTok. It's been a while. Guys like him and Stephon Johnson, who I've been cool with for a real quick minute. But now you got just people coming out of the woodwork. When you got the NFL coming on your stuff, when you got all these different blue checks that are coming on your content, it's just it's humbling, because I tell anybody until I'm blue in the face, which is really hard for me. This is not something that I started trying to do. I didn't get into TikTok to become TikTok famous. I did not get on TikTok to try to, you know, make money or get big on the internet. I got on TikTok because I was bored during the pandemic. I saw a lot of people who were depressed and I wanted to make them smile. So whatever video I can make, comedic wise, music wise, wrestling wise, in order to brighten somebody's day, that's what I tried to do. And I still do that now. The amount of comments and DMs and messages that I get from people who say, "You just make me so happy." And every time I see you come across my FYP, a smile comes across my face. I hit like as soon as I see the video because I already know the content is going to be great. It really puts a lot of the stuff that you do in perspective. And I'm very fortunate to have been put in the position that I'm in now. But the 1 million plus the verification symbol, it really it really brings it up to another level. It's to the point where I really don't, if I don't get a whole lot of views or likes on a video, it never mattered before. It really don't matter now. It's like, okay, you don't like this one, that's fine. I like it. Someone put it out there. Got 1 million followers. I'm good. Like y'all see I know what I'm doing. So we ain't gonna worry about that.
That's yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying a little bit a little while ago about how your content comes across as genuine. So I think like when that coupled with the justification from TikTok, right? Like the check mark, the 1 million. I think the FYP has acknowledged you and really blessed you with putting your content, which is wholesome, fun, and really enjoyable, in front of people whose days you're making better. But I want to move and we'll come back to it because there's a little bit more that I want to dig into, but I want to move away from social media talk here for a second, because we have a very rare opportunity here to talk about two completely different territories of professional wrestling. We come from the gritty Toronto, Ontario scene of professional wrestling, which a lot of people consider to be like Chicago light, where we're very rowdy, and we are the type of fans that since the dawn of time has always respected technical wrestlers. Right, that's why the likes of Bret Hart have come out of here, the Kenny Omegas, Chris Jerichos. I'm very curious about your upbringing as a wrestling fan in the South, because to me that seems like it would be a completely different world than what we were used to growing up as wrestling fans and in local house shows around here.
Well, with how wrestling it was in Canada, and some of the dynasties that come from professional wrestling in that part of the globe. The South is kind of the same way.
Absolutely.
But it's different, but it's the same. Like you have all of these different, the territories back in the day with Jim Crockett Promotions and Mid South Wrestling and just a lot of these different promotions that were from the South, and all of the Von Erich families and the Rhodes that you see what the Rhodes are still doing now with Cody and Dustin, and how Dusty paved the way for all of that, and the NWA, WCW was birthed from that, and just all of these, and it's still a hotbed now, from Atlanta to like West Texas.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
see, it's all there, and it's there are a lot of fans who remember from back in those days who are still that's still ingrained in them. It's still their blood. I was at I did a show. If you remember the video that I did, where I was breaking up a couple guys in the ring,
Yep.
and told some guy I was gonna fire him. That
Yeah.
was me working as
Saw
the
that one the other day. I saw that one the other day.
yeah, I'm the commissioner of Value Independent Wrestling. And that's the manager work that I did was with them too. I've worked with them as a ref, as a ring announcer, as a manager, and now as the commissioner for about 15 years. And you got fans. I was talking to somebody after the show on Saturday. She was so excited because she was going to see the Rock and Roll Express. And like she just that was Ricky and Robert are her boys. She loves them to death. And we just sat there talking after the show about her love of the Rock and Roll Express and how she liked Robin more than she liked Ricky. But she she just loves them so much. And they talk about that stuff a lot. And me growing up, I was a little kid sitting on my uncle's floor watching old NWA. And it used to be on the Superstation, TBS, 6:05 Eastern, 5:05 Central. That's what we watched. And I grew up watching Ric Flair, Sting, Lex Luger, Nikita Koloff, the Road Warriors, the Four Horsemen, the Andersons. That was my upbringing. And that's a legacy in the South that you can put that up against just about any region in the world. And you have some of the best talent to ever grace a squared circle that came out of that. Though, those territories and those guys who just really because being in North Louisiana, Mid South was something that we saw a lot. And that's where guys like Ted DiBiase and Hacksaw Jim Duggan really came up. And what's funny to me is that people don't, that's where Shawn Michaels comes from, is that region and that time frame. But he went by a different name at first. Like he was still a student in the game, trying to get cut his teeth and get his name up. And you got a lot of guys who are like that. And if you look at some of the guys who are on TV now, like I told you, man, Ricky Starks in AEW, BIW themselves, they've had Ricky Starks, Keith Lee, Thunder Rosa, like a lot of these cats that you see in AEW now, they were a part of they're a part of that lineage. They came up in the indies in the South themselves.
Yeah.
And now you see them every week on TV doing big things. So it's cool to see that heritage and lineage still being played out now in what you see on TV every week.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that because like I Santi and I have a different age group when it comes to pro wrestling, and Mid South wrestling is a lot of the guys that I was watching early 90s breaking into what was the WWF, the early WCW, the late NWA stuff. So it's for me, you're speaking my language. Like right now, you are talking about guys that I grew up watching. Like
Yeah.
that every week you had, where the New York guys tried to get that, that Southern mentality out of pro wrestling, which we saw Vince do in the future. But you can't get rid of the lineage that Mid South wrestling has actually provided us. The history, the talent, well, you look at half the WWE Hall of Fame and you're looking at half of Mid South wrestling from the 70s on, right? So
Well,
I hear you, man. You got quality talent.
So I'm gonna tell you a story, and this is one that you'll really understand and like appreciate. So one of the first things that I ever did in BIW, I was a ring announcer for whenever we went on the road and I didn't have anybody to manage, I would ring announce. And one of the shows that we did was in Saline, Louisiana. And we were in Saline, and one of the headliner on the card was Dr. Death Steve Williams. And for Doctor, the guy who runs it was like, so Doc is gonna get into it with one of the guys, and I'm gonna need you to step in and kind of break them up. So to try to save it for the main event. So me getting the chance to actually do some work with Dr. Death Steve Williams is one of the highlights of my career and my life, to work with him. And that was not too long before he passed, because Doc had his health complications,
Mhm.
and to get the chance to work with him right before then meant a lot. And just having these opportunities to work with these legends and these types of people, it makes it all worthwhile to go back and look at the things that I've been able to do, and the people I've been able to work with, the guys you see on TV on a regular basis. It's really cool to see.
Nick, I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I think you're the Forrest Gump of wrestling fans. You've it's like you've been everywhere. Were you also a professional ping pong player in the Olympics? Because what I'm hearing is it is a trail of greats that you've had a chance to interact with, and these are things that your typical wrestling fan that isn't an insider or isn't a wrestler themselves just would never have the opportunity to have as many interactions as you've had, which I just think is wild. Another thing that I'll mention, like a big difference I would say between a lot of this talent that you've mentioned coming from the deep south compared to what comes out of Canada is it's especially in the 80s and in the 90s, you could get over in Canada without having a personality, so long as your in-ring work was pristine. It took it took Bret Hart forever to get any sort of personality, right? And it was because Vince McMahon really pulled it out of him. But before that, any of his work in Calgary, anything that comes out of the dungeon over there, like, it's just work. There is very little in the way of character or personas or really like the personality side of professional wrestling. Everybody that you mentioned coming out of the South is this larger than life personality that cannot be contained. And that's something that, the Canadian scene has never really seen, which I think is just such a big difference. Like you said at the beginning before talking about all this stuff, like, it's the same, but also different. And I think, and Steve, feel free to jump in here, I think that that's the biggest difference between a lot of these markets. A lot of markets, the fans, they will put a different aspect of the business on a pedestal. I think the South is the personality. Yes. Canada is the technical work. Japan is a different beast altogether. They don't even like stand up to cheer, right? Like there's respect when it comes to what they're seeing in terms of like the art of professional wrestling. So like I've always found that so interesting and so fascinating, how different parts of the globe, or even just parts of the same country and same continent, put value into different aspects of professional wrestling. Go ahead, Steve.
Nick, I'm just going to jump in before you hit this. You looked at the Okada Jay White match the other day, and the stadium was silent with Jay White receiving the title, the IWGP title, and the place was silent. There was no applause. There was nothing while he's cutting his promo at the end. And it was just a different atmosphere. You come to Canada, and don't get me wrong, Toronto and Montreal are
wild.
virtually two of the most hostile, I will say, next to Chicago and Brooklyn. Even I would still put Brooklyn behind Montreal. Two of the most hostile of the top 5 areas for pro wrestling, even though we really only release wrestlers with that technical ability. I'll say, take away Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, who are just in an upper echelon. And I will say Owen Hart could have been in that upper echelon of those wrestlers that had the drawn out personality on top of that technical ability. You take the South, you are bringing in those hard boys from Texas, those hard boys from Louisiana, from sorry, not Nashville, but I'm saying like just from that mid South area, even the ones that really don't fit the Mexican style and come up into that mid South area, like say Thunder Rosa, you have a different breed of professional wrestler that can cut the promo, be that quote sports entertainer. But it's just a different mentality. Feel free to jump in. I'm just spitballing here just from what Santi said. It's more of there's levels to the game, and I don't want to sound like Conor McGregor, but there's level to this game, and the mid South and the Canadians seem to have that idea of what those levels are.
I put it to you like this, and this is something that I learned at a very early age, because I used to study, tape professional wrestling on my VCR and watch tapes back and forth. In the era of ROH when it was first starting, and people would send you tapes because you never saw, could it wasn't on your TV, you couldn't see that stuff, so you would just borrow tapes from your friends, tapes from Japan, of stuff, DVDs of different events where you get to see some of these guys. uh, One thing about the South, and especially people from the South who are professional wrestling fans, they will buy a ticket to boo you.
I
One
love
thing,
that.
and this is if you ever go back and watch like old NWA stuff with Flair, like there were some who absolutely loved him, and there were some who wanted to wring his neck. And those were the ones that you really wanted to try to reel in.
Yep.
I worked when I first started working in professional wrestling in with Bayou Independent Wrestling. I was a heel manager. Nicest guy on TikTok. $1 million smile, million follower smile. Biggest heel you ever want to see. Like you nacho swilling, Dr. Pepper guzzling, just nasty overall wearing. Why don't you go get a job application and get out of my face? Stop living in your mama's house and go get a real job. Your girlfriend can't sell crystal meth forever, brother. Eventually, you're gonna have to try to make money somewhere. Like it's you, like, you gotta go for the jugular. But then those cats are buying tickets to the next show. Like, I can't believe he talked to me like that. The next time I come out there, I gotta go back the next time because I'm gonna make sure. Like they used to legit try to attack me and my guys. I managed I managed a stable called the Inner Circle. This is a real thing.
The,
They
the
were called
original, the original Inner Circle.
the original
All
Inner
right.
Circle. Well, the original Inner Circle is the reggae group that sings Bad Boys, but that's neither here nor there. The original wrestling Inner Circle was us. Funny enough, our theme song was Bad Boys by
Of
the Inner
course it
Circle.
was. Of
Of
course.
course,
Of course. Of
of
course. It
course,
makes sense.
of course. So we like they were all shorter than me. This is real. I'm 5'9". All of these dudes that were in my stable were shorter than me, and they always won. They never lost. That was the point. That was like, we want you to manage these guys. You're not even a wrestler. We want them to all be smaller than you. So every time they win, everybody's like, how the hell did they and they just hated us. They legit tried to physically attack us on multiple occasions. Like they would come after us, but these people came to pay their good money to hate us.
So I remember hearing a story about Ric Flair being in a Mid South match where he had to get escorted out by about 15 or 20 security guards because of the threats he was getting because he was such a heel that they were willing to put their actual lives on the line to take out this man. So
Mhm.
what you are saying, I do not doubt for the life of me.
Yeah, that's fans in the South are a different breed.
Yeah.
Like they want to be drawn in. It's like it's the epitome of male soap opera. in the South. Like they want to be drawn into the story. Like I know there are other places like Japan and Canada where they come to see the technical prowess and they want to watch the match. And the storyline behind it isn't necessarily the main thing. But I had to cut like a 10 minute or like a 5 to 10 minute promo to start the show just to get people involved into this match that we were doing because like we had to rearrange some things before the show started, so we had to sell them on this match. So I had to use the gift of gab to sell them on what's going on. They became emotionally invested into this match because of talking, because of what we said before anybody even got into a collar and elbow tie up. It's like a lot of fans, this is in a lot of different places, but especially here, like you gotta draw them in. They gotta feel it. They gotta want to be a part of it because they love the professional wrestling part of it, sure, but they want to be drawn in by story. So if you're not like the stuff that WWE and AEW does, like when they come into New Orleans, Baton Rouge for shows, if you saw the crowd from Baton Rouge last week for SmackDown, or if you saw the crowd that New Orleans for AEW, that was the night that Shawn Dean beat MJF again, and Wardlow was doing the whole thing where he was coming in from the back to try to attack Max. And you had CM Punk come out at the beginning of the show, and people went absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And like they want to be emotionally invested in what's going on and not just the action, but everything that's surrounding it. So a lot of times you got to pull them in, man, and that's how you do it.
I love that. I love that. I think at some point or another, Steve, I'm sure it's inevitable. You and I are going to get invited to a show and we're going to get asked to cut a promo, and we need to be heels. We need to be heels. It's where we live and breathe, Steve. People already hate you. Half the comments want to punch you in the face because according to them, you have a punchable face. We got to use that, man. That's money right there.
Dude, I'm willing to bust out a promo on TikTok right now, but you won't let me do it because it's too hot. So, like, we're gonna. You know what?
Heat, baby, call the heater. We don't need that heat. Call the heater.
Trust me, I'll tell you right now. I'm willing to drop a promo on a certain event that's coming up. Maybe it's July 3rd. I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm willing to cut a promo right now. But this man is just like, nah, tone it down. We don't need to be caught up in that. All right, cool, no problem. But yo, my heel Tesh is coming. Heel Tesh is coming. Santi, just let me loose. Let me loose, Santi. It's like Butch on SmackDown. Santi, let me loose.
Now, Professor, it's my understanding that you're a Bills fan. Is that right?
Your understanding is 100% correct, my friend.
Nobody's perfect. You live in Louisiana. I'm a Saints fan. Come on, man.
I'm sorry to hear that. How in the world did
Sorry
you end
for
up
Thanksgiving, by the way?
What's that?
Hope it didn't ruin your dinner. Thank you, Nine. Thank you, Nine.
Now you gotta tell us, how is a boy from the South a part of the Bills Mafia? You need to explain that one.
Okay. So I'm 9 years old, and I had never really watched a full NFL game before in my life. And my uncle tells my mom, why don't you bring him over to watch the Super Bowl? And the Super Bowl that I ended up watching was Super Bowl 25, which was Bills Giants. And that was the day. Now, I know that it ended heartbreakingly
Yeah, I did.
for my Buffalo Bills, but it was the day that I was all in on. And because I remember specifically right before that game, I was, this is a story for another time, but I was much maligned as a youth. I was, not accepted. I was, ostracized, outcast, all that stuff. And I remember going on the bus before an AFC championship game between the Bills and the Raiders. And that was back when, kids of my ilk, being from a town, Grambling, Louisiana, that is majoritively African American, loved the Raiders. The Raiders, that's who all the rappers wore, and they wore the starter jackets and the Raiders hats and NWA and all this stuff, and they loved the Raiders. So they were like, yeah, the Raiders are gonna kill him. So I said, well, I bet y'all $1 that the Bills will win. And the Bills slaughtered them. I want to say it was a 50-point win. It was huge. And of course, nobody was going to pay up the next day. But my mom was like, yeah, you can't collect on any of that. And they were all like, we weren't going to pay anyway. But that was, I always felt as though I was the underdog. I always looked at myself as the underdog. And the Bills were the underdog too for years. Underdog. So that was kind of where my heart was. But it became much more, a much deeper love of this fan base, this community, this team. Because of, for one, years ago, they drafted this guy named Kyle Williams, who is from North Louisiana like me. I was from Grambling. He's from Ruston. He's from 5 minutes away. Um, and he went to LSU, they drafted him, and that was a personal connection for me, because of where he was from, and it, gave me some skin in the game. Same thing with Tre'Davious White. Trey's from Shreveport, hour away from where I'm from. Trey's from the Cooper Road, which is a very rough neighborhood in Shreveport. And I got a Trey White jersey sitting in my room now. It gave me that personal connection. But over the past couple of years specifically, it has become it runs through my veins. I mean, I've always been a fan, but now it's like, and it was actually the game against the Saints, this past year. It's okay, Steve. I'm sorry. Um, we, so it was Bills Mafia is known to take over a city.
Yep.
They're one of the best traveling fan bases in the NFL, if not the best.
Half of them are Canadian as well, just so you know.
Yes. There are a lot of from Toronto.
Yeah.
They taught me how to say it while I was in Buffalo, Toronto. So I tried my best. I hope I did well.
No, you got it. You got
You're
it.
good.
You got it.
You're good.
So they wanted to do a parade, like a true like Mardi Gras style parade in New Orleans before the game. That ended up at this place called Barcadia in New Orleans, and it was they did news reports on this, and it's just a sea of thousands had taken over the city. My girlfriend, who's sitting right in front of me now, is a Saints fan, and we were there all week. That game was Thanksgiving Thursday. I got there that Tuesday. She got there that Wednesday. But we were there all week because I was doing work with Grambling State University. Their football team was playing that weekend in New Orleans. So the whole week, there's this Bills fans everywhere. And this was the first time in my life that I'd ever been somewhere, because this tradition in Buffalo, when somebody says go Bills, you say go Bills right back. So this was the first time in my life I'd ever experienced it. And she was walking everywhere with me, and she just got sick to her stomach. She's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Why are there so many Bills fans here? Like, they were everywhere. It was wall to wall.
I bet she's laughing behind the camera right now as you're
No,
talking
she
about
hates me because
this.
she had to deal with me that whole game, and I was extremely obnoxious because I was it was a tribute to Drew Brees that game during halftime, so they gave out these towels that said "Thank you Nine" on them. So every time the Bills scored, I was just like, "Thank you Nine, thank you Nine." Trish,
Well,
Nine.
I'm done with this interview.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it must be nice, like being part of a fan base that actually has fans. You're talking to somebody who's a Los Angeles Chargers fan, and your story is way better than mine. I felt, yeah, I'm only a Chargers fan because as a kid I was looking for a team to root for, and they were part of San Diego. They were the San Diego Chargers. My name is Santiago. I was like, they kind of sound alike. Boom, became a Chargers fan just like that during the time of LaDainian Tomlinson. But now there's no fans. Anytime I run into a Chargers fan, I have to hug them. It's like, we don't exist. Come here.
Well, I tell you, that's how it feels, or that's how it felt for me here, and still does. Because being a Bills fan in Saints land, you're a man on an island.
Yeah.
I just moved away from the only Bills fan that I'd ever known, like personally, because he was in Monroe with me, and he's like, I'm leaving. He's like, yeah, one half of the Bills backers of North Louisiana is leaving me.
Yeah.
But they have a Bills backers bar in New Orleans, and I'm gonna have to make it down there for a game because they have like that was one thing that I discovered this past year while I was traveling because I did play-by-play and color commentary and sideline reporting for Grambling State University college football. So wherever they would go, I would travel with them to do this stuff. And we had a game in Dallas, and they had a Bills backers bar in Dallas, and I went there, and there were some people there who kind of recognized who I was. I was like, "Oh my God, you're the TikTok dude! I can't believe it." And went to what was the name of it? Christians downtown in Houston. We had a game in Houston, and there's a Bills backers bar there. There's Bill backers bars everywhere. You'd be surprised how many Bills fans there are all over the country and all the world, really. And just it to so what I was alluding to, where I was getting to, while I was in New Orleans, I was hanging out with a bunch of members of the Bills Mafia on Bourbon Street, and they were like, "So, when's the last time you were in Buffalo?" I was like, "I've never been to Buffalo." They said, "You're one of the biggest Bills fans we know, and you've never been to Buffalo?" I was like, "No, I've never been to Buffalo. We got tickets. We got tickets for you. All you got to do is get there. We got tickets. All you got to do is get there." So there was a game last December in Buffalo against the Carolina Panthers, and I booked plane tickets. I was like, I'm going. And I flew in Saturday night, went to the game on Sunday, flew out Monday morning.
Now, Nick, did
And
you just before you continue there?
yeah,
Did you go through a table or put somebody through a table during the tailgate or what?
not this time.
Come
A,
on.
a wrestling
Not
fan and a
this
Bills
time.
Mafia member not putting somebody through a table? You
Not
realize
this
that's
time.
heresy.
Not this time. But we are working on getting back up there for the season opener this year, especially if because there's talk because I'm gonna do some media with some Bills folks. They just did a story on me in the Buffalo News. There's a couple other things that I'm about to do with the Bills, and like there's a legit campaign going on now for them to start playing that video during games. There are people who want me to come to the home opener and lead the charge for the team onto the field.
Nice.
Like
Damn, dude.
it's crazy the stuff that's going on now, and I feel like it's just gonna get crazier. Um, uh, I so it blows my mind to think about some of the stuff they got going on. But yeah, they were like, we got tickets for you if you want to go. I flew in, stayed with a buddy of mine, Kristen Kimmick, who is the leader of the Bills Mafia Babes, or one of the leaders of the Bills Mafia Babes. Got to meet one of the OG Bills Mafia members, Del Reed. He's one of the creators of Bills Mafia and the movement. And it just be for them to acknowledge me and for the team to acknowledge me, we the ones, for them to tweet my video out and to comment on my video on TikTok, and all these people from Bills Mafia to support and share and comment, and then all so many of them when I actually went to the game, because I did go to the tailgate. I took pictures in front of the Bills Mafia house. There's proof that I was tailgating. I was there. I didn't go through the table. No. But there's still time.
Now, Nick, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is your next 2 million view video. You tell Steve and I the next time you're going to a Bills game, because we're an hour, 20 minutes from there. We will drive over and we will let you personally put us through a Bills Mafia table.
I thought he was going to say you could put me through a table because he's never up for that.
I will sacrifice myself for your content, Nick. If it means being one of the first few people that you personally get to put through a table.
I tell you what, here's the idea: Kane style double choke slam through a table.
I'm in.
I'm down.
Nick, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know mine and Santi's setup, but once we hit 1 million on TikTok, Santi gets to put me through a table.
Nice.
It's happening.
That's our setup. Once we hit 1 million on TikTok, like our 1 million party, he's putting me through a table. So that we've set that up. So if we can align that with Bill's Mafia, I'll let you put me through a fucking flaming table. I don't give a shit.
I got you. Well, I know that you guys do the alcohol, so you're gonna fit in real well with Bill's Mafia because they're all over that thing. So it's gonna be a good time. Like I said, the home opener is in September. It's Monday Night Football against the Titans. I believe that's when the home opener. I'm pretty sure that's when it is. Because game 1 is against the Rams. I want to say. So whenever I get there for a game, I'd love to meet up with you guys. We can go have a couple of wings at Barbell and do it up right.
Absolutely. So, yeah. All right, let's wrap it up, folks. Nick, before we head out, where can the people find you?
All social media is Mr. Professor 318. That's TikTok, Twitter. We just passed 20,000 on Twitter. Just hit 23,000 on Instagram today, which is crazy. So I thank all you guys for that. On YouTube, you can search Mr. Professor 318 and find me there too. If you search it on Facebook, you can find me there as well. So all social media, just look for Mr. Professor 318 and you will find me there.
Fantastic. Steve, where can people find you?
Guys, you can find him soon to find me back on Twitch at Mr. Tesh, and then obviously on TikTok, Mr. Tesh, and then obviously the Straight Shoot. If you guys are not following the Straight Shoot YouTube, I don't know how you guys got here, but make sure you follow us here. But Nick, I just want to say for myself, thank you. The stories you've told us, the road that you have been down, and I don't even think we scratched the surface. So
I say you gotta have me back so I can tell you some more because there's more.
My next part was I think we need a part 2, Santi. I don't know if you're.
Oh no! Haven't we always asked for a sequel to Forrest Gump, Steve? All right, you're telling me that I wouldn't want a sequel to continue to hear about these ridiculous wrestling stories that he tells so nonchalant that have me melting inside? Of course, we would love to have you back, Nick. People can find me over at twitch.tv/SantiZap. And of course, you can find me, if you want the John Cena persona of me, over at Mr. SantiZap over on TikTok. Trust me, it's gold. Although, it might trigger you. Trigger warning. All right, folks. Thank you, both of you, for joining me here today. If you're listening on podcast services, whatever podcast service that you're on, if it allows you to leave a review, please leave us a positive review. There's 100+ reviews already on Spotify, and we're averaging 5 stars. We're ahead of the Colt Cabana podcast somehow, Steve, on Spotify. I'm taking that. If you're on YouTube,
Let's go.
If you're on YouTube,
and Gangrel.
Yeah, we're ahead of Gangrel's podcast. Suck on that, blood, Gangrel. Make sure to leave this YouTube video a like, a comment, and thank you all very much for watching, and take care.